Welcome everybody to the Christmas countdown. Today is actually Christmas Day, and my guest today is George Gilbert.
Merry Christmas, Maria. Thank you for having me here today.
You're welcome. I'm happy that you're here, and today is a big celebration, and people around the world are sharing their pictures, and it's just so beautiful. And I feel the love energy is so high.
It is so nice because even though most of us can't get together in person like I would normally have 12 to 16 people over for dinner and cook for them, but seeing everybody's pictures helps make that more a special Christmas this year because we're all doing our best to get through this and helping each other, socially distancing with each other.
I
So,
know this is a different year, definitely. Hopefully, next year is going to be more of a normal or what we used to have.
uh-huh.
So we won't be so distant. Do
Absolutely. Absolutely.
you want to share a memory?
Well, I'd be happy to share a memory. I've got a lot of great memories for Christmas. I'm going to share a Christmas Eve memory, if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
Back many, many years ago, my parents, my parents used to were a show business comedy act, right? And so being in Vegas, they would invite all the entertainers over for Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, or Christmas dinner, and because they had no place to go. And in those days, uh, the showrooms were what they call black on Christmas Eve and Christmas, meaning they didn't have shows on those particular days. And Vegas was kind of slow during that time. And so one Christmas Eve, because my parents had just gotten off a tour with them that summer, the number one rated comedy variety show was Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. Now, this was the number one rated show at that time. And so they were in town. They'd worked with them earlier. And so they invited the whole cast over. And that was Rowan and Martin. It was Ruth Buzzy. And I know you don't know who these are, but they were pretty big names. Henry Gibson, Joanne Worley, and Dave Madden, who was Mr. Kincaid on The Partridge Family, if you've ever seen those reruns. And Goldie Hawn came over, who was not even a big movie star at that time. She was just starting out with Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. And they all came over. And then there was a knock on the door, or a doorbell rang. And normally I'm shy. I'm not the one who answers the door, but somehow I opened the door, and there was a comedian named Buddy Hackett. Now, he crashed the party. Okay, but that was okay because all the entertainers were invited. He crashed the party, and I opened the door, and to me, he was the biggest star there that night because I had just seen him that week in the Disney movie, The Love Bug, and he was one of the co-stars. So this was like, wow, all these people from TV and movies. But I tell you what, that was my parents. They opened the house to all the entertainers on the Las Vegas Strip, and you never know who would show up. So it was really nice to see them. And that's what my house was. It was just good friends or family coming over for the holidays. So that when I think of that, it just warms my heart that, after mom and dad had passed away, I kept this house because of as you said, the positive spirit and it's here always at my house. And I think people do like to come over still because it just has a good vibe to it. It's got all those good memories.
Yeah, the vibrations of love stay in houses. That's why when you want to buy a house or you want to live in a house, you can ask that it will be from people who love each other. So
Uh-huh.
it's definitely there.
Yeah. So,
I'm glad.
it's just a good time.
Yeah, I'm glad. That is beautiful experiences, it's almost like you see yourself in a movie. If
Yep.
that could have been a movie scene easily, like, oh my
It felt like
God,
one when I was a little kid, I can tell you.
that's great. That's awesome. So, how do you feel being the son of so talented people? What was it for you? When did you? How old were you when you realized?
Well, that's the thing, when you're growing up and you grow up backstage, you don't know that there's a different world,
Oh,
that most people aren't hanging around with uh, movie stars and television stars and big names. I mean, my parents worked with everybody at one time or another, and even though I was very small, I can remember Jack Benny and let's see who else, Bob Hope, and I met George Burns backstage at the Copa Room at the Sands when the Sands was here, and my dad knew all these people. We went to a funeral one time, and there was a Buddy Hackett there, who was a really funny comedian, and he was one of the co-stars of the Dick Van Dyke Show. And so all these wonderful people, and you know what? The coolest thing is I have good memories of these people. Okay. Now you hear a lot of trash, and maybe it is like that now, but the old entertainers, wow, they were always a family. And even though they may not have communicated between different shows over the years, but whenever they saw each other, it was like family again. And that's what was really cool, because I have very few bad stories about the entertainers. And so, yeah, I didn't know the difference. When I did start to know the difference, because half my friends didn't believe me who was over last week when I told them, so I started figuring that out. And then I really understood it when my parents threw me on stage, and I think we talked about this before, at Disneyland Hotel at the age of 12. Then you realize, wow, this is different than everybody else's parents and family. So when I did my debut as a stand-up comedian at 12. So it
I
was,
think it's such a blessed life, George, because who could have imagined, that you're watching your parents from backstage,
yeah.
compared to kids being at home waiting for their parents coming from different jobs.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The only holiday I didn't like was New Year's Eve. I didn't like it when I was younger because my parents were always out of town performing somewhere. Those were big bashes, big party shows. Uh, Although now, having performed on New Year's Eve, I still don't like New Year's Eve, because when you're on stage, everybody's drunk and they're doing those noisemakers, and they don't even care who's on stage. They're just there to bring in the new year with lots of drinks.
Yeah, lots of fun. I think it feels I used to hate it when I work on the holidays at a restaurant, because you have to work. And I remember one time they made me stay over for New Year's Eve, and I wanted to leave and I couldn't go, and I was mad that I couldn't go and be with my family, because we weren't even busy. And like you say, people don't even care who is there, and they
Right.
don't need that many people.
No, absolutely. You're right. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be around my family, and they were always out of town, my parents,
Yeah,
on New Year's.
yeah. It's tough to leave, as a parent. Like I remember my ex-husband used to cry over me being out, and he said, "I'm the man, and I'm here, and you're not here." And he said, "You abandoned me." I said, "Well, I'm so sorry. I don't want to be at work. I want to be with you guys." And
Yeah.
it just he was like a little kid, he'd still be crying the following day
Huh.
because I left them alone. And it's hard to be where you need to be when you know you need to be with your family.
Absolutely. But we got to pay our bills, and
Yeah.
that's why my parents always took New Year's Eve. But here's the thing, though. My parents kind of changed their career around little Georgie here, if you will. They wanted to make my childhood as normal as possible. So when I started entering school, they didn't go on these long tours like they used to as much, other than in the summertime, where they would go with Roy Rogers or Ronan Martin's Laugh-In during the summer. but they tried to stay home. They were fortunate. They were one of the top convention acts of the day. Now you're doing speaking, and so you understand these conferences and conventions where they bring in speakers. Well, they used to also, for one of the after dinner uh, entertainment, they would bring in a whole show.
Wow.
And so my parents could do that. They could fly into Chicago, do the show, and fly back the next day. So, and then my grandfather or somebody was always taking care of me here. So I didn't get to travel as much as I got older during the school year, which I really missed. I didn't realize I missed it until I could no longer do it, because I wanted to also be with my friends when they went on these tours as a kid. But no, there's special memories. And even though I didn't realize it was different, I still appreciated the lifestyle and the camaraderie of all the entertainers and the fun. They would all go to dinner after a show, and they would include me. And so, you get to hear all these wonderful show business stories, And in fact, when my parents were first on the Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In tour, they went out and left me with a babysitter. And the stars of the show said, "Where's Georgie?" "Oh, he's at a big..." "No, you bring him next time." And so I got to go to all the parties after the show after that. So it just good memories. And that's what the holidays should be, are good memories and celebrations with friends and family.
Have you ever thought of writing a book or making like an audio material?
I've done a little bit of that in some of my books, especially Take Two Laughs and Call Me in the Morning. I talk about some of the show business aspects of it, but on the healing aspects of humor and laughter. And then, but yes, I have included some of these stories in some of my speeches, and I do hope to have the time to write these down before, as I get older, before I forget. And I have to make it though in a way that people would understand who these people were, because about 10 plus years ago, I'm talking to the audiences and I'm realizing the audience has changed. The younger adults now, they don't like yourself, they don't have any reference of some of these huge stars that were household names back in the old days. They don't know who they are. And so I have to make adjustments explaining who they are so that there's reference to why I'm talking about how to tell a joke or something, and who I learned it from. They have to understand that this was the greatest comedian at that time, So yes. So I will hopefully get that book down. It's going around in my mind quite a bit.
You know what I'm thinking of, a title, The Healing Power of Happy Memories. And then you can do, I recommend audio because it's easier for people to play it, but you can also do a book. But I'm thinking, just because your voice is so pleasant, to do The Healing Power of Happy Memories. And then don't focus so much on explaining, what they did, but how you felt.
Okay.
And you can just call them by their first name, and people is gonna start identifying the characters. I think a way of identifying the characters is saying how you felt when you were around them. Like you can attach a specific feeling to Andy, let's say a name, Andy, the well-meaning friend or something like that. Attach like a characteristic that they make you feel every time you saw them. Or someone that was a really good businessman, you can call him something like I don't know, something related to a superpower, kind of make them heroes. And then you don't have to explain, and that would be something anyone can relate to. And it can also be used for children to inspire them. And you never know who wants to bring their children into this kind of life, that will make them understand what it's about.
And they were heroes to me,
Yeah.
because they treated me with respect and just were the best people. And like I said, they were role models. And a lot of show business people don't seem to be role models today. But to me, these people were role models, the way they handled themselves, the way they were just regular people when you're around them, and how much most of them were just funny naturally off stage. You know, you get people who are trying too hard to be funny off stage,
Yeah.
but these people were just naturally funny.
You know what I'm seeing, George? I'm seeing a children's book with cartoons where you
Oh,
can tell the story, like pick up the best characters, or, not the best necessarily, but the most impactful to you, where you can tell a story and how they were to you. So that way you can create a character with a cartoon.
very
And
good. I will explore that idea. Thank you, Maria.
yeah, and children's book are easy to sell, and because they're not expensive and it's not hard to read it, and anyone can get it from for someone, and I'm thinking like Dr. Seuss theme where it gives a message, but
Hmm.
it's also funny and it's very simple. So you can easily compose a simple message with those characters, and that will be like a treasure for people that love you. So what happens when we create material for people is that when people get a hold of it, your energy is there, even if
Absolutely.
they don't read it or they don't touch it for a while, but when they get to touch it. I was just listening to a video from Mind Valley, and believe is like the director. He says that he studied this power of when you have a book of someone and just touching it will
Hmm.
give you guidance, because he used to be a salesman and he wasn't selling anything. And he will touch this book and then he suddenly will know who to call, and he started making money. So I think when you create that, because it's all yours, it's all your loving energy.
Hmm.
Well, and that's a good way of selling it, even if you don't want to read it, just touch it and you will feel the energy of love that is ingrained in there, is marked. So it's how do I explain it, uh that is present, you will feel the loving energy that is in that project, and
I
there's nothing outside of pure love, that it will make it so attractive.
Well, thank you. I completely can relate to that. Whenever I would
Yeah.
read, I like to read. Haven't done it for a while, but I like to read biographies of these famous people, whether I knew them or not,
Yeah.
or met them. And so whenever I pick up a book about that Bob Hope wrote, or Jack Benny's daughter wrote, or about Laurel and Hardy, or any of these movie stars and comedians and entertainers, I feel the vibe of the show business backstage,
Yeah.
and that energy and love that these people had for entertaining people.
And also what I'm thinking, like the families of these people who are still alive, they will appreciate it. They will see,
Hmm.
their family member there, the way you remember it, because your memories are special and different than theirs.
Right.
So maybe a part of what you remember, they will be glad to know that, that's what you experience with them.
Yeah. And I won't be sharing any of the dirt that I know about some of these, because that wasn't my parents' way, you know, uh, other than talking amongst themselves. There were a few things, but I don't need to share that, because I like to send out positive stories,
Yeah.
positive notes. They may go through a challenging time, some of these stories. As you know, I do the Be a Hero about my ex-wife, Dory, needing a kidney transplant. But there's a happy ending
Yeah.
at the end of the story. And so I always like to end on positive things like that.
Yeah, I think you have such a beautiful story. Even, it would be good to have it on a movie.
Yeah,
Like if you can create a script for a movie, you never know who can buy it.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah, because the ones when you put it on a movie, is self-explanatory. They can do a little black and white image of what
Right.
they were so great, and it's so explainable. Yeah, there's so much that you can do with it. Like even children's book, they don't have to be 13 pages. They can be longer. Judy Moore interviewed a lady who made a children's book of 600 pages.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm just thinking in a way to make it easier where it doesn't have to be a struggle, where it would just flow and make it simple.
Very nice. Very nice.
And I see, people like you a lot when we post pictures or there is material from you, like you're one of the popular stars, that I do videos with because I'm checking on your views and like, oh my God, you're going up so fast.
Wow, that's great. That's great because I'm honored whenever I'm on your podcast or anybody's podcast
Yeah.
because I just I love to give back and I love to entertain and I love to share my messages and my stories, in person when I'm speaking or was doing comedy before I became a humorist. And so it warms my soul because as even though I can't see audiences now, it's nice to hear that there's people interested, and hopefully entertained or inspired, uh, because that's what I've been all my life, whether it was backstage until the age of 12 when I started performing professionally on the stage. So I'm used to and almost need the audience reaction, or not so much the reaction, but the energy of the audience. Because when audiences get together, now there's some audiences that are like, there's no energy, and I'm trying to give out more energy than I'm getting back, and it wears you out. But the point being is that the audiences bring an energy, especially when they like you.
Yeah.
Uh, it's I've never done drugs, but it's a high that uh, to me is better than drugs. If I, because it's a natural high, it's a natural good feeling. It's the endorphins that you get when you're on stage that really make it special.
Yeah, I believe it's just the energy that you have, George. I was thinking the other day, if we ever did that, meet my friends, live an event, which I want to do soon as we can. I was thinking the best MC will be George. Like I want to see you there. I already see you. And then I just did a video about love changes everything, and there's a song. And I was thinking I would like to do it with you because the way you move and the way it's just funny, when you say, "Oh, the show must go on." And so when I was singing the song, I was thinking of you when I had the last interview when you say, when I ask you, how do you continue when something bad happens? And you say, well, the show must go on. And it's just the way you move, I can see you, in the song. So I was thinking I have to do that song with George and it will be so funny,
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll do the dancing, you do the singing, because what's even funnier than my dancing is my horrible singing. So
Oh. This song is very simple. It's very simple. And once when you watch the video, you'll see how you can interact in the parts, and it's just that it's almost like you're laughing when you're singing. So that's
well, that
what
would
I
be
thought it
me.
will be like so great for you.
And the audience will be laughing when I'm singing too. Not the part when I want them to laugh, but you know how that is.
No.
But I'll take a laugh no matter what. That's me. I need to get that laughter sometimes.
We want to do this like on a breakout, like where the speaker is taking a little longer so we can, keep people entertained and, just to
Absolutely.
keep the energy high.
I'd be happy to do it.
Yeah. We're gonna definitely have to get together to practice the song. And
Absolutely.
it's just how you associate people with events and circumstances, it's like you think of a solution and you know who is the person you want to go for it.
Well,
And
thank you. I'm
yeah.
honored.
Yeah, I just think you're so great. Your art is very beautiful, but also the energy that you bring into what you do and how people feel it. I don't think that you have been given enough credit, and many times because people is not used to express what they feel, they don't reach out to you. And what happens in events many times is that there is so many people involved that they come here and then they leave very high, and then they forget about appreciating people, but they do, as soon as they get to the point of high level energy, is like almost like you're on drugs. I think
Well,
I
thank
never
you.
been on drugs, but one time I was drunk. I was at a dance club, and my boyfriend wanted me to have an extra drink. I don't know if they put anything on it. So when we came back, he was driving, and I felt like I was high. It was like really bad. I said, "Oh my God, this is so bad," because if you have an accident like this, you don't even feel it. I couldn't even feel my body.
Oh, that's not good. That's not.
Yeah, but I'm glad he was driving. So I started throwing up in the car, and then when we came home, he had to carry me up. But I just feel like sometimes, when you do this kind of events and all these experiences happen with all this good energy of people gets together,
Right.
people get it, but they don't feel like they need to say anything. I think people think that or that you can feel what they feel, and at some level you can, but I think at some other level it will be nice if people will tell you, how they feel or
Okay.
how you make them feel.
I do get quite a bit of compliments when I'm doing it. And I once told a friend of mine, you were a success on stage or on the podium
Yeah.
when it takes you by how long it takes you to get out of the room. And what I mean by
uh,
that is when people come up to talk to you,
yeah.
you've done a good job because they come up and talk to you, and they may not just they may compliment you, or they just may want to talk to you about something you said or something like that. And so if you can walk right out of the room uh, after your presentation, you probably didn't do a good job. But if it takes you 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes or more, you've done a great job.
Uh,
People want to engage with you afterwards. You know, people that don't, it's like, well, he's going to walk by. Let's, you know. But I did want to talk about the energy that I bring. Okay, that energy I believe is because I love to entertain. Now, you know me off stage, and I'm not as gregarious. I'm kind of quiet, and don't say a lot unless I have to say something. But when I'm on stage, it's because I love to be there. It's part of the DNA from my parents and all the entertainers. And then the other thing that I do, because sometimes even now I get a little nervous before, but not always. But even if I'm not nervous, when I'm being introduced, I tell myself, let's go have fun. Let's have fun up there. So you get that mindset that, hey, we're going to have fun and bring it. And so the entertaining part of me uh, background is don't just go up there and speak, but bring that energy with you. And my parents used to say, hey, there's some people who bring energy into the room, and there's some people who just suck the energy out of the room.
yeah.
And so I try to bring that energy to the room. And then I feed off the audience. If the audience is into it too, then I'm even more positive energy rather than, oh, I got to work hard to make them laugh, you know? So yeah, that's why I think that you say I bring a lot of energy and fun to my presentations, even on the serious ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I tell our, as I coach, uh, Al and I at Next Stage Communications, we coach a lot of speakers, and some of them have very serious messages. But I tell them it's okay to still love what you do, even if it's a serious message, because you're trying to embark on the importance of that message to your audience. And then I also tell them, even if it's a serious message and there's some down parts to it, walk on stage smiling, just a smile, because you want to express to the audience that, yeah, I'm going to tell you a sad story or a very serious message, but I love to share this message. And so you have to walk on stage with a smile, and then you get into the serious message, because that's how you get the audience engaged right away. But if you walk on stage like that, everybody's going, whoa. So have fun inside sharing that message, because that message is important to you have fun sharing the message.
That's great. I think you give us like great techniques. I will never tell measuring your success and how long it takes you to get out of the room. I think, every time you share it with us, you teach us.
Well, thank you. I try to without preachiness. And if someone, and I don't go up to somebody who I've seen and say, well, here's how you could do it better. But if they come to me, I will share how to improve. I don't like to impose myself like I'm the smartest guy in the room. No, I like to, if they want advice, I'm happy to give it. But I don't say, well, you did this wrong. You did this wrong. You need to do this, because that puts the speaker on the defense.
Yeah.
And it also plays a mind game with them, like, oh, am I not good? And just because I may want to share something or have something to share, I want them to come to me. Unless they're a client, then I will share, what they need to do. But if they come to me, I'm always happy to share some of the things that I've learned in the, 46 year career that I've had. And yes, something like that. Yeah. And yes, I was 12 when I got started. Some people say, yeah, I was 12 when I got started. No, I was.
You got to start planning the 50-year anniversary. That'll be very soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And my entire family, starting with my mom back in 1927, at 5 years old, I'll be celebrating our 94th anniversary of a Gilbert family member being on stage consecutively since 1927.
That is entire lifetime. It's almost a century now.
Yeah, it's if I can make it 6 more years,
Yeah.
then I will made it for a century.
That's awesome. Well, you're pretty healthy, but you never know. It's just with situations in life, you never know who lives first.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's people who is very young that you are surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully God will keep us alive many more years so we can do more happy creations for people that they can enjoy and guide people. Because when they connect to you, I know they will be taken care of. I was even thinking the other day too, I saw Maria Romano's review of Think About You. I wanted to do individually like a video on LinkedIn, recommending you for people.
Oh, thank you.
And
Well,
yeah.
we'll set that up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that would be a simple way. LinkedIn I see a lot of advertising,
Yeah.
and people is used to it. So I think it's a good way to market in there.
Well, thank you. I would be honored for you to give a testimonial.
Yeah, it's easy to record. So I just have to maybe write what I want to say. But I know sometimes it's when you get the ideas, just do it. Just do it right then, because I've seen 1 minute videos, but I can find a way to do like the one Maria Romano did, a few minutes. And I think I think the more people talk about you and how good you are, then people start to believe in it, even if they don't know you or they were not so familiar with you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm honored.
Yeah, I do, believe in your ability to guide people, because I seen you like you're very respectful of people's presentations. I've seen you and you just don't say anything unless you're asked, or unless, like, you're very careful of what you say. And I think that's a great trait to have, like, because you never know how people is going to take it.
Right. And that comes from my show business days. I still remember at 11 years old getting up in Mrs. Gaston's music class for the very first time, and how nervous I was. Right. And so when I'm watching someone, or walking on stage at Disneyland Hotel with the spotlight for the first time and a microphone in my hand, I have those memories that if someone's trying for the first time or any time, and they're nervous, I feel that nervous for them. And I want them to succeed, because that's what it's about. And all these great entertainers, some household names, more that weren't famous, but were what they would call the comedian's comedian, or the entertainer's entertainer. That's kind of an inside respect from all the other entertainers, that when they say someone's a comedian's comedian. And they're giving me advice. They were very careful to not beat me up, so that I lost my confidence. Now, some of the comedians would say, have you experienced flop sweat yet? But they were kind of joking with me. But they also said, you're not going to be a success until you overcome flop sweat. And flop sweat is standing up there doing your best jokes, singing your best song, or doing your best dance, and the audience is just sitting there like, okay, what was that? And you break out and you start shaking, you break out in this cold sweat, and all you can think about is getting off the stage as fast as possible, and you don't want to get back up there. Well, in order to be a success, you've got to understand you're going to have those days, no matter how talented you are. And you have to get back up there to learn to overcome it. And as my dad used to tell me, Georgie, you're only as good as your last show. So make it the best you can, and then get right back up there the next time, just in case.
So how do you get back after you've been treated like that?
Well, you mean from the audience? You just
Yeah.
have to learn to get back up there. I remember my dad was so supportive, and I had learned to play the piano a little bit at about the age of 14. Okay. And so he had me incorporate some of that piano into my act. Well, you know how you learn, I don't know if you play an instrument, but even driving, you don't think about it.
Yeah.
And you're done and you go, how did I get there? Or how did I play that song without even thinking about it? But when you start to think about it, you go, where am I?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my mom and dad booked me at the Hollywood Comedy Club. Now, that's not the comedy club like the Comedy Store or the Improv. This was a private club of the comedians. And on the board, now they weren't there that night, was Bob Hope and Milton Berle. And then there were some who were there. And Ted Lang, who was the bartender on the Love Boat, was sitting right up front. And that was one of the top shows of the time. And he's right there. And I'm telling my jokes and he's laughing. And I started playing the piano, and all of a sudden I started thinking about it, and I just went bang, 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 bang. I wouldn't stop. I could not hit the right chords to Rachmaninoff's prelude in C sharp minor. And I did that, and I stood up, I took my bow and walked off the stage. Now, on the inside, I'm shaking. And I really started to break into that cold sweat, because this was not just a show for a regular audience. This was a show full of stand-up comedians. and here I am dying on stage. But you know what? They were so supportive of me. Although Uncle Don Rice, not really my uncle, but he was one of my coaches and mentors, he said, now you know what flop sweat is. And that's the only thing. But they all encouraged me to get back up there. They were all very nice. And so when I see someone struggling up there, I feel those days when I was struggling. And I don't want to kill their spirit so that they don't want to get back up there.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So flop sweat?
Flop sweat.
Flop sweat. Okay. Well, hopefully it happens after you got some few claps, and some other audiences, so you don't feel like you're not good at all.
Well, nowadays you're going to get flop sweat just because the audience isn't right, or you're not right for the audience, I should say. No matter how good you are. I've seen some of the greatest comedians die of flop sweat.
Wow.
but they get back up there. Yeah, it's nerve-wracking, it's tough, but when you've done it so long that I've done it, you just get right back up, and you try and forget about it and go on to your next show. As I said, no, our last meeting, the show must go on, even if you don't feel like you're good enough.
Yeah, you definitely have to go back and believe in yourself. I'm thinking of when my older son started driving, and he says, Mom, do you get a car accident when you start driving? I say, no, you get a car accident when you think you can drive, because then you don't take up the precautions. So I think that's probably what happens, when
Oh,
you think you're good and then they slap you, it's like, oh God, what do I need to do now?
I completely agree, because when, I worked with my mom as a mother and son comedy team. I brought her out of retirement because I thought that would be cool. And, or even by myself. And I would say to myself, or say to mom, oh, this is our audience, right? Whenever I said that, it just seemed like we struggled to get laughs, or I struggled to get laughs. But the audience that you think is the toughest, wow, I'm getting laughs, So you never know. You never know. Comedy is there is no science to comedy. One day you're the greatest comedian, the next you're not, but the next one you're great again. So you never know. Fortunately, I've had more great comedian, being more of the great comedian than I have of the bad comedian, but it all happens to everybody.
How do you deal with the insecurity? Because I've been at NSA many times, and I've seen people who is intimidated by the audience in there. But how do you get out of feeling like you're not as good as they are?
Well, and even George Burns backstage said, Georgie, you need stage time. All these great comedians, that was their two advice. You need stage time and have you overcome flop sweat. Those are the two things that the comedians that I grew up with and entertainers would say to me all the time. And what it is you just have to continue to get back up there over and over and over again. And yeah, there's still audiences that are going to intimidate a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you know that you're good enough, even if you bomb that day, you know that it's not necessarily you, or it's you, but you can do better. But you just experience helps overcome insecurities.
How do you manage when people leaves early? Because I've seen that too. Like you're there until, let's say, 2 p.m., but people starts leaving at like 11 or before lunch.
Yeah. Well, there's two reasons people do that. One, yeah, some of them are just not getting anything from your presentation.
Yeah.
The other thing is maybe they had to leave.
Yeah.
Because at NSA, I usually stayed till lunch, but I didn't always stay for the workshop because I had other responsibilities that I had to take care of. So you can't take it as an insult. I got to tell you a story though. My mom and I were performing at a senior community. And at this performance afterwards, because we try not to perform while people are eating or when they're picking up food or serving it, because that distracts the audience. So that's usually in our contract, or at least highly suggested. And this one time they were going to serve dinner after our performance, but they were going to serve it buffet style. So on the far left of us performing, they're putting out the buffet. It was okay. So one person said, well, I'm going to watch them perform while I get in line. Okay. So other people started saw him, and they got in line. And the next thing you know, about half of the audience is standing way over there in a long line, and we're just performing for a few people. But you got to go on. You got to act like it's not bothering you. you know, and this was when we were pretty successful too. And yet you just have to realize it's not you. You can't compete with food,
They were
especially
just
for a free
hungry.
buffet for the seniors.
Yeah, I think what happens is that once when the food is set, the smell attracts you and you want it. And
Yeah,
you want it as soon as possible before it gets cold.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this was buffet, so they weren't even opening up until, but everybody was in line, you
Yeah.
know, and so it's hard to compete with food. It's hard to compete with the smells of the food and around dinner time, they don't care. You know, it's it's just like New Year's Eve,
Yeah.
except it's not the food on New Year's Eve, it's the cocktails.
Yeah. They just want to get some happiness.
Absolutely.
Well, I think for events, most of the time people is rushed. They want to look good, but they're not thinking that they're hungry, and then they're hungry and they're not thinking.
Yeah.
So they do what is, needed, and the smells are always attractive. And of course, the sensations too. So if, they get a cocktail, that's gonna feel happier. So definitely we'll
Yeah.
take that opportunity.
Maybe I should rub my body in Italian pasta or something before I. They're looking at me, not at the buffet. Little bakery cake or brownies or something. So,
Yeah.
George smells good today. His act doesn't stink.
Maybe start talking about food, so people can see that you're relating to what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, I'm smelling, some, like, whatever you think you're smelling, and see, oh, let me know if that's what's in there. Maybe I can go right after you guys. Maybe can I cut the line for you?
Actually, I don't even want them thinking about it because they're going to go leave like that one audience did. But here's the thing. Those are the stories that people want to hear.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear that you were great. Even the ones coming up, they want to hear that I overcame that.
Yeah.
I could get back up next time, because when you do that, you make yourself human.
Yes.
You make yourself authentic to your audience, or when you're coaching, or doing a workshop, because if it tells the clients or the customers that, oh, well, if he's bombing, if he can bomb and still get back up there and be a success again, then maybe I can too. And that's what's important. And that's why I don't impart my coaching on people unless they obviously, the ones that hire us, that's different. But like when I go to like a Toastmaster meeting or NSA or something where I see somebody, I don't walk up to them and say, well, here's what you could do better. Would you like to hear what you could do better? No, I'm not going to solicit myself
Yeah.
that way. I'm going to solicit, if they want it, then I will share it. But I don't want people to get all defensive and say, oh, I don't want George in the audience. He's just there to criticize. No, when I'm in the audience, I'm there to be an audience for the speaker or the comedian. Yes, I'm analyzing everything because every time I see someone up on stage, I'm analyzing it in a way. Would I do it that way? Or could I do it better? Or am I learning something? And either way, I am learning something, even if I wouldn't do it their way. And then I also realize everybody has their own style. And even if it doesn't work for me, it might be working for them, especially if the audience is laughing or applauding or whatever. You have to also take that in consideration. I know somebody who coaches them the way they do it. And that's fine, but you also have to take in consideration the person on stage. And so some people may not have the greatest diction, but it might work for them. Whereas myself, it doesn't, and I've taken so many, I've had so many coaches on speaking, and I had a coach who, good friend of ours, and she was so perfect in every word. She enunciated every perfectly. And one time when I was doing the mother and son thing, and this time this act was this one routine we did, mom would be off stage, and I was a little kid, and I'd pick up the phone and call her, and she'd say, Georgie, where are you? And she'd start yelling, you didn't take out the garbage, da, 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 da. And she's like a mom would yell at a son,
Yeah.
why aren't you doing your chores, right? So mom couldn't do it. So Patty, my speech coach, we asked her to do it. So when I picked up the phone, she was so busy trying to say the lines correctly and not like a mom yelling at somebody, that it it didn't have the same energy as we were talking about earlier. It didn't have the same comedic response. And then she was so involved in saying everything correctly, she missed the cue when I hung up the phone. So it's more about how to make you a better you, and not how to make you me.
Yeah.
When
I think it's how to make imperfect pretty,
yeah,
how to make it beautiful, how to make it attractive, how to. I think it's more about getting the good vibe of people and let it express it, even if it's not completely like. But eventually, I think sometimes it takes time for people to gauge you, to understand what you're all about. And sometimes the message is very simple,
uh-huh.
And then when people get that it's very simple, then associate you with that simplicity, and then
Mhm.
they're okay with you being simple.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Is if the goal is to make you the best you have your personality come through, your authentic self come true through when you're up on stage. And if you can do that, it doesn't matter if you're not the perfect lingualist, if you're, if you have an accent. Like I think I told you once, don't lose your accent, just learn to enunciate with the accent so we can understand you.
Yeah.
But don't not be you. Don't get rid of your accent. Your accent is part of what makes you and separates you from everybody else. And so is your personality.
I
Just
just think the more you do it, the better you come at it, because if you don't practice, if you're just shy and don't talk to anybody and don't
yeah,
try anything, like you don't advance in any direction. Like you can go 20 directions if you start, but if you don't start, you don't go in any direction.
absolutely. And my partner, Al Jensen at Next Stage Communications, always tells everybody version one is better than version none.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do it, you're going nowhere. But at least if you do it, okay, first of all, you started the process. Second, you can learn from what you did. And third, you're not going to be perfect the first time out, or the second time out, or the third. But if you gradually learn and celebrate what you've learned, but also say, okay, how can I improve? Then you're going to go from here to up here to up here to and gradually get there. I was not great when I started. Fortunately, I was a little kid and I got away with my cuteness, being a little 12-year-old stand-up comedian. But when I started getting older and I looked more like an adult, or you know uh, closer to an adult, I had to learn to deliver my lines, not just say them like a little kid does. I had to learn to write my humor and not just do old jokes that fit a little kid. So we all have to evolve, but you don't evolve until you get started.
What do you recommend to people that used to be cute and now they're not? When people start losing their beauty or they start aging and
Uh,
they're not forgiven for their good looks anymore.
right.
How do you take someone like that into having a meaningful message regardless of their looks now?
Don't rely on your looks, learn your craft and practice your craft. There's I don't know if you're familiar with the Andy Griffith Show. It was a show back in the 60s, and um, oh, I can't think of his name now. He played Opie on the show. Now, Opie was a cute kid. He did act pretty good. He did act good, but he was a cute kid. As he got older, he had to rely on his acting. He had to rely on his timing. He had to learn to be him. And he did. He did it naturally. Okay, so then he ended up being the star, one of the stars of Happy Days. And then he made some movies. Now he's behind the scenes directing some of the biggest and producing some of the biggest movies of our time.
Yeah.
But he evolved and changed as he got older. And what you see is you'll see some child actors, they never change. And so they're big at when they're little, but as they grow older, they couldn't get work.
Yeah.
It's because they didn't work on their craft. They just thought they were great. And so you need to constantly work on your craft. I'm still working on my craft. What I say, 40 some years later, I'm still working on my craft, still trying to improve. Now I'm trying to improve virtually because the virtual presentations aren't going to go away anytime soon, even after COVID.
I can see that.
There's going to be a hybrid sometimes. And so I need to improve my speaking on, I need to improve looking at the new eye contact, of which I did a speech one time and said, the camera is your new eye contact. And even I tend to look at the screen instead of the camera. And so I have to practice it and practice it and practice it until it becomes normal. I have to continually work on my green screen and my lighting, because as you can see right here, that's my desk, and you can see part of the green screen on the desk for some reason today. So I have to continue. I didn't turn on all the TV studio lights that I have. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, about 6 lights or more in this room when I'm doing a coaching session or a workshop. So I have to continually improve, not just my performance, but the technical stuff now too. And so we're always improving to take ourselves to as we say, to the next stage at Next Stage Communications. Sorry, plug them.
That's great. I think you are more like a director, once when you are sitting in there, you're analyzing everything and you're seeing how everyone plays the role.
Yep.
And then you know the whole concept of what the presentation is. That's why you always have the eye and find what it is that could be improved, because you're looking at the whole.
Yep, absolutely. And so when I see the broadcast of this, I will be watching, okay, what did I do good, but what really needs improvement? And that's what I do. And I suggest everybody videotape, whether it's live in front of a real audience or a virtual audience, tape what you're doing and go back and watch it so that you can learn from your experience and build on it.
Yeah, that's a great way looking at it. But there is also another way where you are just grateful that you did it. And I think that the way we judge is not how people judge us. And
Right.
sometimes it's just I find out, like, when people like your voice and your presence, they just want to hear what you say. Maybe they're not looking at you if they're driving or whatever it is that they're doing, but sometimes it's just that the energy that you have that makes people have some type of feeling, the same way like the stars make you feel in their own way. I think we have the same effect on people. It's just like the same thing I was telling you. I don't think that people express and all what they feel when they are connected to us, and we just have to keep on doing it. Even if we don't hear back, it's like
No, and that's true. You don't. But at least if you watch, you can say, and I'm not talking about what the audience is doing. I'm talking about what you're doing. So you're not necessarily it's good to understand it if the audience is connecting, but it's important to say, okay, I need to improve on that. Now, I will also say that you may screw up something and you may want to keep it in the act, in the speech. And a great example of that is my mom and dad. My mom and dad did a routine, an act that they did it for 30 years. Now, they had other acts, but this was the one that all the agents booked them for. I mean, they were booked because of this act. They were booked to play themselves in a movie. They were booked to go on the Ed Sullivan Show and other TV shows like that. And sometimes something went wrong because it was a physical comedy act, almost acrobatic, and something happened that they didn't plan on. But they would talk about it the next day, not right after, because when you get off stage, you have all these endorphins and energy going that you could get into an argument right after you've done it, working good. Well, you did this or you did this. And it's not about blame. It's about what did we do? And sometimes they'll keep that mistake because they were kind of spoofing acrobats and making mistakes on purpose. But if a mistake happened and they got a laugh.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, that got a laugh. Let's put that in on purpose now. So even something that you don't think went well, if you watch the video and go, oh, wait a minute, that got a pretty good laugh, I'm going to keep that in my speech. So yes, it's about how you feel, what works for you. But you can't do that until you watch yourself. Do it and then watch yourself. And I did not have that option when I started out. In fact, I didn't have that option until mid to late 80s, actually late 80s, maybe 90s, because video cameras were big and luggy, heavy, and you had to carry them around. And I had the worst luck getting video. But now I try to almost videotape almost every presentation. Now I can't always, because when I go into get paid for a conference speech, they don't always let you bring your camera in. So anyway.
What do you do in that case? Can you record? Well, I know the phones a lot of times don't have enough memory. Maybe an iPad.
I've just never done it because I've done it so often that if I can't get a videotape, that's fine. Although sometimes I go, oh, I wish they would have let me, because this was the greatest audience. They laughed where they were laughed and they applauded. I got a standing ovation and I can't prove it to anybody.
Maybe a tripod with an iPad, will be helpful. And those have really good quality too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's so easy now to videotape yourself, as opposed to then when you had a big, huge video camera. Sometimes you even had the camera with the base where the tape was, with a cord in those days. And so nowadays it's so easy. As you said, you can videotape right off of your iPhone.
Yeah, that's a good quality too. Well, I think you definitely got hired back, when they saw a standing ovation and audience reaction. Yeah. Definitely that payback, that way. Or people commenting you or following you around.
Yeah, and like I said, you've done a good job, because it took me 20 minutes to get out of that room that night, or something like that.
I'm glad. I think it's easier now to get followed with social media. People, it's easy to get followed now with social media. They just search for your name and they can find you in all platforms.
Well, that would be nice.
Yeah, to follow what you're doing. Well, a good way will be recording yourself at home, for some time and see, well, this is what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
What George is doing today, and then you will, do what you do. And it will be funny to see you in like while you were at home. I can see you like no shoes and with like those Bermudas or those kind of shorts that you wear at home.
If I put pants on.
Yeah, I think it's funny to people, when you do things where they can see themselves in you, like, oh my God, I have those too, but it's just different.
Yeah, or you could get up and stand up and, oh, no. Don't worry, I had jeans on today. It's Christmas. I put pants on today.
Or when you have underwear that doesn't match, what you're wearing.
Bend over.
People can see the brand on top.
Absolutely.
Yeah, many ways where you can get engagement. I think using many ways to get people to connect to you is the easier way to get business. Because they get to know you, they get to know the human side of you, and you're just another person, another human being. It's not hard to get a hold of you.
Yeah. And right over the last few months, when I have time, I've been converting my old videotape or to digital and editing short spots out of them and putting them up on social media.
That's great. Yeah, it's a good way to do it on YouTube too, because people can follow it
Yeah,
and it can be
absolutely.
shared. And you never know who in the world is gonna
Yeah,
watch it anyway.
yeah. I'm putting them on Vimeo, and I'll be putting them on my YouTube channel. And so that way people can see my credibility of what I do. So, and it helps not only get booked to speak, but it also helps with bringing in clients for next stage communications too.
Yeah. I think it's just consistency. Anything you put out there, it's consistency.
Yep.
And it's just you never know who's gonna get a hold of it and how that's going to follow the thread.
Yeah. My lesson is I have to learn you don't have to put out your perfect best stuff.
Yeah.
You can put out other things, and it's still good to the audience, even though for me it's cringeworthy. Like I said, sometimes you do a great job, you don't feel like you did a great job, but the audience thought you did a great job.
You know what I think it happens when you put something less quality, then your higher quality looks like it. Otherwise, they have no low quality to compare to yourself.
Right.
It's
Uh-huh.
comparing you to other people. When they compare you to yourself, or how you can perform, and how it can be compared, maybe how imperfect it can be to compare to how funny or how enjoyable it can be. I think it's a good way of marketing yourself.
Yeah, it is. I forget sometimes,
Yeah.
because I'm always trying to put my best foot forward and quality over quantity. And nowadays, it's not just quality, but it is quantity, like you said. Uh, just getting it up there and out there.
And I see it even on like people who is on Hollywood and stuff. I follow this a man on social media. Eugenio Derbez is his name, and he used to be a comedian in Mexico, and now he's here. So I remember last year there was like 3-4 days they weren't posting anything on Instagram. And then he made a video. He says, "Well, I'm sorry we've been absent. It's just because we've been on vacation. And what happened is they were filming a vacation movie. So I was thinking he even has to explain to people why he's been absent for 3 days. And you think these big names won't need much more following because they have many people. But I was thinking even they do it. And I see how they post about everything. And it's like being at home and arguing with the wife, or they make it seem like it's that, or he'll be washing the dishes, and then he's also putting up the content about his movies or what he's working on. And then he also does like videos from like when he started it, and you see how he has grown.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
then we need to do that too.
I do too.
Yeah, he put up his comedy when he didn't look great at all. Not even the image, the sound, the outfits, or nothing is compared to what he is now. But I think that's how he makes us realize where he is now compared to where he used to be.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And somebody, sent me a video request or something uh, that they're putting together and wanted to see how you know, what it looked like on video. Well, I had to set up the lights the way I needed to set it up. I needed to make sure the sound was perfect. I needed all of this stuff, of which I should have just done it fast, but it took me 2 days to do that, and that's my mentality of, because of show business and professional speaking, I still have that mentality of, you got to put your best stuff out there to get hired by the bookers. But now with social media and the way like the world is changing, where, you know, uh, I always got paid up front to speak. So I really didn't have back of house until the last several years to sell from the stage or in back of the room. But now things are changing where it's more numbers that need to follow me in order for them to go buy my books or the courses that I'm creating or the online coaching that Al and I are doing with Next Stage Communication. And so it's a different mentality rather than getting paid up front. Now it's like many of our NSA uh, members, they get paid in the back of the room. They get paid, they give their speech and they do their ask uh, to buy their book or their workshop. As you know, every time a speaker speaks at NSA, they've always got something to sell.
Yeah.
It might be a discount for NSA members, but they always got something to sell, as opposed to me, who never had to sell anything because I always got my check up front.
Yeah. Well, you know what I saw the other day on social media? I saw someone selling a book and they said Venmo me or sell me. Sell. Are you familiar with sell? Where people send you the money through the bank? It's like a
Oh yeah, yeah,
bank transfer. And
yeah.
I was thinking that's a smart way of selling your materials.
Well,
You can put that and just, Venmo, sell me or send me the money somehow, and then I'll mail it to you.
yeah, absolutely, and that's what I'm talking about. It's a no. The speaking business is going through a big change right now because of COVID.
Yeah.
You know, there are less paid upfront gigs up there, but people can still sell their programs, their workshops, their books online instead of, getting paid to speak up front. So everybody's got to kind of pivot to this world because, as I said, it's not going away. You know, uh, it's going to change where there's going to be go back to some live events, but it's going to take a while before it gets back to normal, because what companies are seeing is, rather than fly everybody to a convention town like Las Vegas or um, Chicago or wherever these big conferences are, they can connect all their employees via Zoom rather than pay to fly them out, pay for their room and their meals, and pay for a big ballroom to put their conference on. So they're going to cut their costs way down. And once a business sees, oh, we can cut our costs, it's very seldom that they add money when they figure out that they can do something cheaper. And so that's what's going to change. So we have to all adapt to video for
Yeah.
speakers.
Well, I think right now there is no company that probably has much money to spend, so it's gonna take us a while to get on our feet, like all of us. So
Exactly.
it's a good way of prepping and seeing that, now it's gonna be like that, where they want to save money because they don't really have much money to invest until business, goes back to the way it used to be. And it could possibly be much better because we all learn so much. I've seen many people getting talents that they never thought they had just because they had so much time in their hands.
Absolutely. I completely, and it goes back to my story about when I was a little kid and I was cute. But as I started getting older and lost that little cute kid of me,
Yeah.
and got pimply faced and all that kind of stuff, I had to learn to deliver the jokes. I had to learn to write the jokes. I had to change uh, my whole persona, if you will, to relate to the audience now, or so the audience could relate to me. And so just like that, we're now learning to switch from just live events to the virtual events, and we're having to learn the technology that we're doing it. So it's the same thing, it's just a different level. So Those that can adapt will become great successes. But those child actors that just stayed where they were and didn't improve, they're the ones who are going to fade away. So you getting on Zoom every day with your podcasts and things, this is going to change the game for you because you are learning the technology of the day. You know, when, for instance, when, and I'm going to use Toastmasters as a reference, when Ralph Smedley created Toastmasters in, I think, the 20s, he didn't have a microphone. Microphones weren't invented until about the same year, invented with microphones and speakers, loudspeakers, PA system. So until, and it took a while for that to become common. So speakers didn't start out using a PA system. They had to project in a different way that speakers do today. Although we should know how to do that, and I've had to learn that because sometimes there's shows that the PA system goes out and the show must go on. So we have to learn to adapt, and we have to learn to change, grow, and learn to stay up with the times.
How do you manage using the microphone? I've seen videos of Lady Gaga dancing, and she's dancing like this, you know, like she's holding the microphone.
Right.
How do you adapt? I know now there's, you know, many items in technology, like you can use the one on your ear and
Right.
the one that was like the headphone, and the ones you attach in here, the lapel mic. But also, what happens when that is not working and you have to hold a microphone?
Yep. You have to. Well, for me, I started holding a microphone. I mean, from day one on Disneyland Hotel, it was holding a microphone. Sometimes you can put it on a stand. Sometimes you have to hold it if you're moving around a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to adapt. I remember someone doing a speech, and all of a sudden they didn't have these kind of microphones. They had a handheld microphone, and they didn't know how to do it. For me, yeah, it might be awkward if I'm doing some kind of a physical speech where I'm like my wine tasting spoof, and I'm opening the bottle and having a bottle and a glass in my hand a lot. I would have to figure out a way to make it happen with maybe a mic stand if they don't have one of those lapel mics or ear mics.
You know what, we need to invent some kind of pocket, like some kind of you can attach to your like a necklace where you can put your microphone in there, so it will be like a pouch.
Right.
People
Well,
actually, you know, acts like that, and then the microphone is there. They don't have to worry where to set it, and then you forget you don't have it, and you keep on speaking.
and there is actually a holder for a regular mic, but I also I'm glad you brought that up because even the lapel mic or this mic,
Yeah.
and I tell this to women who are going up there, if you're going to speak, make sure you wear an outfit. If you're going to have a dress, make sure you wear some kind of a belt or sachet around the waist, because you put that part of the mic that transmits it, you got to put that in the back somewhere. So either wear a dress suit where you can do that, but a dress, you can't put that on there. So it makes it a challenge. So everybody has to adapt.
Yeah, you have to think of what you're wearing.
Exactly.
I think we probably need like a stretchy belt, you know, that is kind of wide, because if it's too thin, then that's gonna fall, and you don't want to have that. Maybe catching your farts.
That would not be good. I'm going to have to go. I was supposed to put the vegan roast that I'm making for my ex-wife Dory in the oven, and I'm running out of time.
No,
So,
you're good. Thank you so much, George. Just tell people
but I
where
had
they
a
can
great,
follow you. George Gilbert everywhere.
absolutely, or Next Stage Communications.
Perfect.
So absolutely.
Thank you
Just
so much for giving us part of your morning.
it's been an honor, and normally I don't do anything on Christmas, but I couldn't say no to Maria. So
Thank you so much.
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.
Bye.